Good afternoon, guys. I hope you're having a fantastic day. If you're new to the channel, my name is Parker Nierenstein. This is Vehicle Virgins, and today I've got some extremely exciting news. Ferrari just announced their latest hypercar, and it may very well be the coolest car they've made in a very long time. It's called the Daytona SP3. It's extremely fast, it's gorgeous, and it's got a screaming naturally aspirated V12. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you every single thing you need to know about the new prancing horse. So what exactly is the SP3? Is it a LaFerrari replacement? Well, not exactly. Ferrari has started the Icona series, which is a new facet of high-end Ferraris meant to pay homage to classic Ferraris of the past, but with a modern twist. And also a really high price tag and extreme exclusivity. The series started with the Monza SP1 and SP2 and has been continued with the Daytona SP3. The SP3 garners inspiration from racing prototypes of the 1960s. In particular, in 1967, at 24 Hours of Daytona, history buffs will remember Ferrari's insane 1-2-3 finish, all across the finish at the same time with their 330p3, 330p4, and 412p. Like those vintage race cars, it's got a naturally aspirated V12 and it's mid-engined. The Daytona SP3 features the 6.5-liter V12 from the 812 Competizione. Although the 812 is a front-engine car and the SP3 is a mid-engine car, so they had to completely redesign the intake and the exhaust. They have this really trick variable geometry inlet tracks inside of the intake itself that virtually can lengthen or shorten the length of the intake, which optimizes torque throughout every single part of the RPM range. Apparently, the piston pins and the camshafts have been covered in this diamond-like carbon treatment to reduce friction. There's also 2 fuel pumps that supply fuel to 4 different fuel rails. All in all, it makes 829 horsepower and 514 pound-feet of torque. That's right, a naturally aspirated V12 that revs to 9,500 RPMs, making 829 horsepower. No turbos, no hybrid assistance, just pure V12 glory. I can't wait to hear one of these in person. The SP3 features a bespoke carbon fiber monocoque, and the entire car weighs in at 3,250 pounds dry. The performance figures are very impressive, and I imagine are very conservative as well. They claim a top speed of above 211 miles an hour, a 0 to 100 kph time, or 0 to 62, in 2.85 seconds, and a 0 to 200 kph time, or 0 to 124 miles an hour, in just 7.4 seconds. The SP3 is drop-dead gorgeous. In fact, I think it's one of the most beautiful yet aggressive Ferraris they've made in a very long time. It has such a nice mix of elegance and also track-focused looks. It's wild, but it's not over the top. It's just this amazing blend of old design, new design, and aerodynamics and functional performance all at the same time. And I am absolutely in love with it. And if you look, there's some design cues from the Ferrari Testarossa, both in the front, but particularly in the rear. There's some really cool, unique design elements of the SP3. Honestly, the looks and the aero of this car are probably its highlights, which is a crazy thing to say when it also has a naturally aspirated 829 horsepower V12. It's like the looks are the best part, but also the powertrain are the best part. They've got some really cool design elements that they borrowed from cars of the past, but with modern twists. For instance, the mirrors have been relocated from the doors themselves to the front wheel arches. Having the side view mirrors on the wheel arches apparently improves aerodynamics, it improves visibility, but it's also a nod to the 1960s prototype race cars that have the mirrors in the exact same location. The SP3 has gorgeous butterfly doors, like the LaFerrari, although unlike the LaFerrari, they've actually integrated air boxes into the doors to assist with cooling the side-mounted radiators. They've been able to move the radiators farther forward in the car instead of having them behind the doors, which apparently is more effective for getting useful air for cooling those radiators. It also happens to look incredibly badass. There really isn't a single bad angle on the SP3, but I'm particularly in love with the front end. Those massive flared wheel arches have integrated headlights and daytime running lights in the coolest positioning. And having those horizontal Testarossa-ish slats on the sides just completes the look. The rear of the SP3 is insane and clearly takes a lot of inspiration from the Testarossa with those beautiful horizontal lines on the back that actually have an aerodynamic and cooling function. You'll notice there's no massive rear wing. There's no active aero on the car whatsoever. That's because the majority of the downforce is actually caused by ground effects underneath the SP3. I absolutely love the split tailpipes, that massive carbon rear diffuser, but one of the coolest design elements is the contrasted color engine cover. Not only does it look gorgeous in the bodywork, it's actually functional for multiple different things. One, it channels cool air into the engine for increased performance. You need as much cool air as possible with a 6.5-liter naturally aspirated V12, but it also channels air out throughout the back slats. Those Testarossa-ish lines actually allow hot air from the engine to escape out the rear, and apparently there's some aerodynamic tricks that also swirl the air around and add cool air from the rear back into the engine as well. It looks cool and it's functional. Hard to beat that. On the inside, the interior is very SF90-esque, but with some retro and modern tweaks to it. The seats themselves are actually integrated into the chassis. That's right, there aren't individual seats on seat rails placed above the chassis. They're integrated into the carbon fiber monocoque itself, which allows you to be lower in the car, reducing the overall height of the vehicle, but it also creates a more reclined layout, which feels, apparently, like driving a single-seat race car. I love the fact that they flow throughout the interior. These Alcantara pads just work so well with the design language. The fact that the seats actually connect over the central tunnel, that's another little tip of the hat to 1960s race car. I'm in love with the floating headrests above the seats themselves. Now, because they're actually integrated into the chassis, they don't actually move. So in order to adjust for different heights, it's got a movable pedal box just like the LaFerrari, so you can move the gas and brake pedal forward or backwards. The front dash layout is virtually identical to the SF90, which is a great thing because that design language and architecture, as well as the user interface, works really, really well. Finally, there's incredible response, great graphics, and if it's anything like my experience with driving the SF90, yeah, it's gonna be epic. Bespoke Pirelli P0 Corsa tires were developed for the SP3 with a particular focus on low grip performance. They also measure 345 millimeters in the rear. That is enormous. This is also the first mid-engine naturally aspirated V12 Ferrari that features side slip control 6.1, which probably means you can do some epic controlled drifts in the Daytona SP3. Please, I hope somebody who gets one of these shows the world what drifting one of those is like. Ferrari's only making 599 Daytona SP3s, and rest assured they are all sold out. Base price starts at $2.25 million. And, well, it's sure to go up from there. I imagine in the secondhand market, they're instantly going to be $3 million plus. For the lucky few, some of my friends included, who are getting this car, I'm so jealous, and congratulations, you're about to have a monster. This is honestly the most excited I've been about Ferrari in recent times. This new SP3, the 812 Competizione, the SF90, I think Ferrari is doing an incredible job at creating really good looking cars that have absolutely ballistic performance. Particularly in a world where everything's going electric, everything is adding turbos, having that last hurrah of naturally aspirated V12s is something that I am very, very thankful for. What I'm curious and want to open a discussion with you guys about is, would you rather have the Daytona SP3 or a LaFerrari? The LaFerrari makes a bit more horsepower, but it weighs more. It's got that hybrid powertrain, which is cool, but also a lot more costly from a maintenance standpoint. We've got new technology in the SP3. Honestly, it's a really hard choice, but I'm leaning, I should rephrase. It's not a choice, it's a dream. I don't have enough money to buy a LaFerrari or an SP3, but I think if I did and I won the lottery tomorrow, I think I'd go with the SP3. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.